Let's get this party started.
Coverage tight, spotlight on tomorrow. Who you with? Trust, you'll be delighted that you followed. At Phirst Contention, the invention. We debate sports, of course we should mention. What's that? We cover games, we don't play suspensions. We 100, so if your star's missing, we let you know your squad surely gone fishing. We never fish though, no, not our motto. We sport, on deals, on court, on fields. The victors, the vengeance, the legends, latest invention. Phirst Contention.
I said, hola, senors and senoritas. Welcome to another episode of Phirst Contention. I am your boy, Marvin S. Banks, here with T.Y. Sosina.
Salutation, folks. Great show in the works. Now, it'll be just me and Marv today. Kurt Busch isn't the only one whose wife is a trained assassin, so no Steve Davis today, but we will strive higher. Let's get right into it. Now, Marv, you joked about which game do we start with, the AFC game or the NFC Championship game? And Packer fans, so behind every joke, there's a little bit of truth, and perhaps he was trying to embed it, but I mean, we got to start with the game that had pulled out all the stops. I mean, you can't write this. Your thoughts on the NFC Championship game and the way the Seahawks clawed back and snatched victory?
I like how you say snatch victory. First and foremost, let me say congratulations to the Seahawks for making it back to the Super Bowl 49 down in Arizona. Congratulations. But Green Bay gave you a late Christmas present because anything and everything that they could do wrong in the last 5 minutes of that game, they pretty much practically did. Giving up an onside kick, giving up a late touchdown, giving up an overtime touchdown, letting the read option happen, Marshawn Lynch wide open on the sidelines, catching balls. So pretty much anything that happened that last 5 minutes of the game pretty much happened. Devastated, heartbroken, any adjective that you want to use to describe me, that's pretty much what happened on Sunday afternoon. So
let's not forget, it's interesting because the wild card game, the divisional game, some inconsistencies in terms of the calling, the controversy with the refs. How fitting that all this culminates in Green Bay and Seattle meeting back where the Hail Mary happened, and it wasn't really the refs who ruined this game. It was Green Bay. You didn't mention this Hail Mary, the 2-point conversion to Wilson, where Clinton Dix, who makes one of the most amazing interceptions you could see this season, absolutely just misplays the ball. I mean, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I had some do-re-mi on this game, and after Wilson threw that 4th interception, I just went ahead and sent it over. But from there, I mean, there must have been some voodoo in that money because everything worked in my favor down the stretch, and I got it all back.
Someone told me earlier today that there was a lot of angels that were in Seattle's backfield this past weekend in order for them to make this big comeback. Ty, like I said, I was just devastated. The play calling, they seemed like they got conservative second half, but I don't blame them. But I gave you the keys to how Green Bay was going to win. Run Eddie Lacy, depend on the tight ends to catch a couple balls, depend on the defense to make turnovers and stops, which they did. They contained Seattle to do
great defensive
effort. They made Seattle pretty much one-dimensional, and it just seemed like it just all came apart. Like I said, it never should have came down to the onside kick. I'm not the type of person that say like I said the week before, one play doesn't determine the whole game. The whole game has a lot of determining factors. Green Bay had 5 turnovers and weren't able to cash them into touchdowns. So, like I said, kudos to Seattle. I consulted with my best friend, Jack Daniels, for a couple of hours just to get over this grief and everything, and my other best friend, Pat Ron, for a long period of time. But
Pat.
It is what it is. It is what it is. Now, I hope next year Green Bay can use this as fuel to the fire and move on. I mean, they were 7-point underdogs, which was astounding to me, pretty much in a nutshell.
Now, you touched on the underdog piece. Was I the only one who was a little disturbed that, Doug Baldwin needed to lash out in a sense at the media, lash out a bit at the reporters saying that y'all doubted us when they were favored of the game, and it's not our fault Doug Baldwin fumbled the kickoff and dropped a few passes. I mean, how did that rub you? Did that rub you a certain kind of way?
It did. I definitely, Jermaine Kearse and Doug Baldwin, and I didn't even watch the post game. I was so disheartened by the post game. I didn't watch the post game, but I saw Russell Wilson crying all in the cameras and everything.
It's emotional.
Very emotional. I was definitely heartbroken, and I was definitely disturbed by. Let's get one thing right. You guys didn't win because of Doug Baldwin and Jermaine Kearse. It was number 24 in the backfield that really carried y'all to victory. Let's just be honest with that. He was really the linchpin and the focal point of what was going on. Russell was throwing the ball with his eyes closed across half of the field, and people were coming down with it. When you throw to a receiver 4 times and he has 4 interceptions when you throw it to him 4 times, stats pretty much say for themselves.
And
pretty much.
I would keep to yourself.
Exactly.
You mentioned Marshawn Lynch, had a great game. I mean, a few weeks ago he wasn't feeling that good, and I know you're not feeling that good, Marvin. And so I had to bring something for you, Marvin. I hope that these Skittles can help you feel the way Marshawn Lynch felt, before he came back in that Arizona game. All right, original Doctor. We've got dessert. We've got wild berry here. We've got a bunch of different flavors. Another thing Green Bay didn't do, Sherman hurts his arm, and they never really tried him.
You know what? I feel like Sherman might have been playing possum, so I understand why. They did throw Richard Sherman early in the first quarter in the red zone.
I said, don't try him last week. They tried it.
But coming from reports from Aaron Rodgers, he thought that he had a free play, so that's why he tried Richard Sherman on that play. He thought he had a free play. He thought there were 12 men on the field, so that's why he was late, and he threw it short to Devontae Adams over Richard Sherman. You see the outcomes from that. But
the 12th man was actually in the stadium.
Yeah, that too. But it is what it is. Like I said, congratulations to the Seahawks for going there. But their opponents will be, once again, Tom Brady makes it once again back to the AFC Championship game. No, I do not want those, Ty. Can't stand Skittles. But Tom Brady, AFC Championship game, they demolished the Colts. It wasn't even close. Thoughts about Tom Brady going to another Super Bowl?
I mean, after seeing the NFC Championship game and seeing the AFC Championship game, it's just night and day.
Pretty much.
What else can we say about Tom Brady? They call him Tom Terrific for a reason. His wife is gorgeous. His team is successful. His coach is the man. I mean, the only thing we talk about is Deflategate, I guess. This is the man's 9th AFC Championship game.
That's a lot.
Heading to his 6th Super Bowl. The man's just great. He's terrific.
You know what? I have a problem with the AFC. AFC, I am challenging you to step up. Please, somebody from the AFC at least be a contender to Brady or somebody. At least be a contender. There's no contenders in the AFC but the Patriots. When you look at everybody that was in the playoffs of the AFC, you could say, they're flawed, or we don't like them, or there's something about them that we really don't like. And when you look at the NFC, I mean, you had a bunch of teams. Green Bay was 12-4, Seattle was 12-4, Dallas was 12-4, Detroit was 11-5.
Even if you date back a few seasons, I mean, the Falcons have been up before the recent slump.
Exactly.
Lions are now here after being down a few years.
Exactly. It just seems like the AFC is kind of like the Eastern Conference of the NBA. They're just it's just one or two teams, and it's kind of then you got the bottom feeders back there that's making the playoffs. But I mean, Deflategate. Now, if this is true that the New England Patriots had to use deflated footballs to beat the Indianapolis Colts, this has to put. What can you say? Are you surprised? Like, does this really surprise you from New England after Spygate and after all this other stuff that they normally do? Is this surprising to you, Ty?
I mean, it's not surprising, but at this point it seems like we're just grasping at straws. They're looking for something to tag him. There's got to be something, They said the Colts made that pick and he just said it didn't feel right. But if it's a pound and a half less, is it that really big of a deal? I mean, Andrew Luck's probably playing with the same football. If it's the same across the board, it seems like it should help you get a better grip on the ball. Whatever. I think we're just pulling that straws here.
But they said the footballs that Andrew Luck was throwing was causing interceptions, though. Only his footballs were deflated, not the New England Patriots footballs that were deflated. But did they really, if this is true, did they really need deflated footballs to beat the Colts, though?
That's the other part. I'm going to say no, and I don't think a deflated football will lead to that outcome in the game. I'm hoping at least that they would have inflated the rest of the footballs after halftime, because that game was over right away.
I was so heartbroken. I didn't even watch this whole game. I just knew that whoever won the NFC was going to face the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I said before they faced Denver that the Colts were the weakest team that was in the playoffs. And
before we found out how weak Peyton Manning's arm really is.
And he had tore a hamstring, quad, or something was wrong with his leg. He was hurt. But the Colts showed me who they really were. They are one-dimensional. They are Andrew Luck or bust. And, I mean, they have to get better in the offseason.
And here's the thing on the Colts. You talk about them being one-dimensional, Andrew Luck or bust. The torch has been passed straight from Peyton Manning to Luck in Indy, and now, with what he did in the playoffs here. Going into those games on Sunday, as you know, Adam Schefter reports that a deal is in the works to make Luck one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. His team is already one-dimensional. If all that money is going to Luck, there's not much else you can really put around him.
Well, it's just not only him, but there's also reports that they're trying to make Russell Wilson the highest paid quarterback in the league too as well. And you think about how Seattle has been dominant over the last couple of seasons because they have the whole team aspect. So some people might be on a chopping block moving forward, and well, we all know the Colts need more pieces too as well. So.
Yes, Luck's like a young Manning, just can't get past New England.
Exactly.
All right, you touched on Russell. We talked about Brady.
I don't know why these Skittles were still here. I don't want these.
This is Wildberry.
I don't want those.
Okay, whatever. I'll eat them after the show. Super Bowl 49. The date is set. The match is set in Arizona. I mean, I know I had to think about this for a while. Didn't really need to watch the AFC game to know that the Patriots were coming out. Talk on some of the storylines for this game, and we'll ultimately get to who we have winning the Super Bowl.
As hard as it is for me to say this, I think that Seattle is not going to win the Super Bowl this year. I'm going to go with the New England Patriots. And the reason being is because I think Green Bay gave out a blueprint on how to defend Seattle's offense with Darrelle Revis and with Brown on the outside to match up with Kearse and Baldwin. Okay. They can focus their attention on stopping Marshawn Lynch. Well, you really can't stop him, but containing Marshawn Lynch in a nutshell. I think with the stranglehold that they will put on Seattle, I think the Patriots with Gronk and with Tom Brady, I think they have enough to beat the Seahawks. I'm not sure how healthy Richard Sherman is, how healthy Earl Thomas is, and if you're missing 2 out of those 4 people of LOB, now you can see Brady really take advantage of that. And plus, who knows, with the Patriots have up their sleeves in the Super Bowl, you might as well go all out, might as well, take out the gas in a plane that goes from Seattle to Arizona.
I'm guessing we'll see a few more of these funky offensive formations.
Yeah.
I had to sit around and think about it, and after the way they played against the Packers at home, you talked about the blueprint. I think the Pats can do it. They've got great corners who you can leave man up on these receivers and not really worry about not having a safety in the back. Dom Capers. Sorry, buddy. They have another good quarterback, in Tom Brady. We've seen, what Rodgers did with, it seems like the calf was 80% there. He's moved the ball. We saw these formations that they used to free up Edelman, through the middle. Now, I mean, once these little receivers are hit by, a KJ Wright,
Cam,
Chancellor in the middle, Bobby Wagner. We'll see what happens because, they like to work the middle with those little guys. And Cam and Gronk, this is going to be the matchup.
That's definitely the X factor. I don't know who you're going to put on Gronk because Earl Thomas is too small, and I don't know if Cam Chancellor is fast enough, to cover Gronk in a slot if he's outside. So you might have to put somebody like Bobby Wagner or KJ Wright on him. Or if I was even Seattle, I might even think about putting Richard Sherman on him. Deploy Richard Sherman on him in obvious passing situations just to nullify Gronkowski. Make sure, look, we're taking Gronkowski away. Brandon LaFell, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, Shane Vereen, you guys are going to have to beat us in a passing game because we already know that New England is probably not going to run the football. They're probably not going to run the football against that front four.
You know, they've got the backs to do it. We touched on what Brady did in the second half of that game against the Ravens.
Exactly.
Again, he's got a better hold of this offense. He's been in the league long enough. He's got Gronk, the receivers who know their role. As far as Russell Wilson and his weapons, again, the way Baldwin and Curse are so vocal, talking about how everyone doubted them. Pride comes before the fall. It's getting to the point where I'm hearing a lot of yapping.
Yeah.
And when you exert yourself and put so much energy into a game like they did to mount that comeback, even with 2 weeks, I believe it's hard to kind of get back up there. And I think, he who humbles himself will be exalted. He exalts himself will be humbled. So I think they're due for a humbling period here.
And like I said, Brady is going for something. He's going for 4 to tie Joe Montana. And if he could tie Joe Montana, something we will talk about a little bit later, what would that say about his legacy, though? What would that say about the Hoodies' legacy, the Patriots, Mr. Kraft? What would that say about their legacy as they move forward? So
they're on a mission.
They're definitely on a mission. But for those that didn't make it to the Super Bowl, well, here's the consolation prize. They get to play in the Pro Bowl that's coming up this Saturday.
Yay.
Ty, thoughts on the Pro Bowl? A lot of people been dropping out, a lot of replacements, don't know who's in, don't know who's out, but we have a football game that's going on here, so thoughts on the Pro Bowl?
We'll slide in there. One of the questions we had for the We Sports segment was, when will the Pro Bowl die? It's not going to die. The ratings speak for itself. If football is included, people are going to watch, period. And when you put some of the biggest names in football, even though a lot of them are dropping out, whether it's because of injuries, whether they're salty after, an NFC Championship loss, or whether or not they just don't want to play, as long as those names are in the game, people are going to watch.
I caught the subtle shot that you threw over here, but
Taste the rainbow?
Pass. But what's really interesting is that it hasn't been entertaining. I don't even know who won last year. Now you having Browns going against Browns and Packers Chiefs on Chiefs, Packers on Packers. I see they're trying to do the fantasy football and draft a team aspect, but it's not entertaining because a lot of people, you can't go 100% in football in a Pro Bowl. And if you can't go 100% in a Pro Bowl, then it's kind of boring. You don't have the edge rushers sacking the quarterbacks. Cool. You don't have really the dominant running game. You don't have people really blocking. It's just, I don't even know what to. It's not football. I don't even know what to call it.
At this point, the way the league is set up, it's about scoring points. It's about offense.
True.
And so they restricted Pro Bowl defenses to a very vanilla 4-man rush. Don't put too much pressure. Nothing too exotic. And it's about points. And you say it's not entertaining, but again, I point to the ratings. The numbers are there. People are watching the Pro Bowl, otherwise they would have pulled it by now. But if you put football on TV, especially when there's nothing else to watch football, we were waiting for the 2 weeks for the Super Bowl. It's that fix. It's what we need, man.
I don't even know that NFL. I don't even know if it's even that type of fix, Ty. It's just I don't know, Ty. I haven't watched the Super Bowl. The Pro Bowl in probably the last 4 to 5 years. I can't even tell you who's a Pro Bowl MVP. I can't even tell you anything about the Pro Bowl. I don't know. 1 year it's in Hawaii, the other year it's in Miami, 1 year it's in Arizona, New York, Germany, Australia. Who knows? They're all over the globe with this sometimes. So it's just, I don't know. It's not interesting.
I guess it's good that I'm a part of this conversation because I will say I'm probably one of the few people who enjoy and actually still does watch the Pro Bowl.
You're probably 1 out of 10.
You talk about it not being as serious, not as fun, and that's part of what makes it fun. Everyone knows they're here, they're joking around, they're playing games. The real MVP of this league, J.J. Watt, last year in the Pro Bowl, that was one of the first time we saw him out wide and try to run a fade route on Charles Tillman. Didn't work, but it looks like he's perfected his craft heading into the season. So it's just anything goes. I'm not trying to, the tension's not there. People are catching laterally. It's just entertaining. It's just entertainment.
The level of disrespect on the show has continued to grow, but like I said before, you're the only person, and probably 7.5 other people that continue to watch the Pro Bowl. Other than that, I don't know how they're continuing to get in their ratings. I don't even know what time the Pro Bowl even starts, to be honest with you. Is it Saturday? Is it Sunday? Is it a Thursday night Pro Bowl? Who knows? Who knows when this Pro Bowl game is? It's a mystery to us. I don't even know.
All right, you talked about the Pro Bowl, which I guess a lot of people out there aren't watching. Let's move to the NBA, another team that folks aren't watching for some strange reason. In case you haven't checked the NBA standings, the Atlanta Hawks are on a tear.
Woo!
Best team in the East.
Woo!
This record is, if you saw this record, you do a double take. What are the Hawks doing? I mean, let's talk Hawks because they've earned it. They've earned it.
They definitely earned it. And their last loss came at home to the Milwaukee Bucks. Ever since then, they've been riding this long winning streak. So what are they doing? They're like the San Antonio Spurs of the East. Head coach Mike Budenholzer came from Greg Popovich's system. Danny Ferry came from R.C. Buford's system over there in the San Antonio Spurs. So what they're doing is not a lot of big names. Jeff Teague, Paul Millsap, Al Horford, but they pass the ball. They work as a team. They work as a unit. A lot of synergy, where the parts are greater than the whole. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting basketball. I actually watched them play yesterday, play the Pistons yesterday. They got dominated on the boards yesterday, but the ability for them to just play 5 out, stretch everybody out, make jump shots, make the correct play. And then you have this sharpshooter by the name of Kyle Korver that's just lighting folks up still at the age of 32. He's just...
Who loves you, Kyle?
Yeah, he's just lighting people up. So they're playing as a unit. They're playing as a team. Very interested to see how they would play in a playoff. So that's what I'm kind of excited to see, and who makes it as an all-star too as well.
You bring up good points. Playing great, the team aspect is there, and when you're being called the Spurs of the East, you're doing something right. Kyle Korver, again, miss you. Bench mob, respect. But
C-Red
and all that. This is great for them. This is great. You talk about who can kind of take that next step. But in terms of next step, the playoffs. We've seen the way the Hawks have their playoff record, how that stands for them. So that's when you're really gonna see how serious they are, because they've usually been a one and done, or we'll get through off some kind of fluke injury or something like that. So in the playoffs, I think that's when you really could judge them. But if they can get this high seed, I mean, they can do some damage.
I mean, by the way that they're looking, they would probably be the number 1, number 2 seed. So they're probably looking at playing Charlotte or the Brooklyn Nets in the first round. Which
way to keep it going.
Keep it going. If the playoffs will start today, I would definitely see them beating them in a 7-game series. But it's just interesting to see a team with so much turmoil. That organization has so much turmoil in the beginning of the season, mm-hmm. and for them to just put all that behind and just continue just to play ball, it's just they're an amazing team. But do you think that they're the best team in the East, and do you think they could represent the East moving forward, Ty?
I mean, I was quick to say no, but we talked about the Bulls, and they went on their slump. Cavs still trying to find themselves. Pacers still not the same with everything they're kind of working out through there. So I mean,
Pacers not gonna make the playoffs, but
I gotta say yes. Right now they're the team in the East, but it's one thing to be it now. But when it really counts, again, then we'll see what it all means.
There are a couple of teams I want to see. I mean, you touched on Chicago, you touched on Cleveland, but there's 2 other teams that a lot of people aren't really talking about. The second team in the East, Washington Wizards, I want to see them match up against them. And Toronto, they got DeMar DeRozan back this past week, so I want to see them. I want to see them at full health match up against the Atlanta Hawks. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup,
especially with Washington's big men. Exactly.
So let's get into the best part of the show. We like to call We Sports, and our first question comes from Demola Agundape, and he touches on a subject that we were talking about a little bit earlier in the segment. if Tom Brady wins, where do you place him in the top 10?
I mean, being how long I've watched football, whenever we get in the top 10s, it's rough because, prisoner of the moment, what you've seen in your lifespan. For sure in the top 10, I can't say number one overall. Let's throw out some of the names. Montana, Marino, Johnny Unitas was up there, setting passing records before it became a passing league. So I'm gonna for sure put him in the top 10. I mean, let's sit him around 5.5.
5.5. Ooh, if Brady is able to do this, if he's able to go out there and go win, then I would think that he would have to go down as the greatest quarterback in NFL history. And the reason being is because he's been to the Super Bowl 6 times. He's won 4 Super Bowls, and he's been to the AFC Championship games numerous times, 9 times, like you said before.
Not to mention the 2 Super Bowls he lost by a combined 7 points.
Exactly. So
he could be could be 6 for 6.
To go 4-6 in the Super Bowl. I mean, I understand Montana is the gold standard, but you have to give it to Brady.
Let's bump him up to the top 3. He's in my top tray.
Top tray.
The elite 3, as I say.
Okay.
Next question. Terrence asks, is Danny Ferry GM of the year thus far for assembling this Atlanta Hawks team that we just talked about?
I don't think there's no question about it. I mean, Atlanta Hawks came out of nowhere. For them to come out of nowhere really and to be in first place in the East, if they can continue this pace moving forward, then I think they are amending all the controversy that was there in the beginning of the season too as well.
Again, when you're being compared to the Spurs, inside the East, you're doing something right. And when you're on top of teams like, the teams we talk about, Cleveland,
Chicago,
Bulls especially,
Washington. Toronto.
While the East is weak, it's strong up top. So, yeah, why not? Of course.
Exactly. And third question comes from our guest host a couple of weeks ago. Deron Carrington asked, is Gary Kubiak a good fit for the Denver Broncos?
Absolutely. We saw what we did to Arian Foster's career. That zone blocking running scheme. And if there's one thing Peyton Manning needs, if he comes back, which Kubiak is hoping for, it's a strong running game. And you'll be able to build off that with the play action, which we saw Flacco have a lot of success this year.
I think it totally depends on the moves that John Elway makes in the offseason. If Peyton retires, if they're unable to sign Demarius, if they're unable to sign Julius, then you're looking at a totally different team than what you're facing next year. So it depends on the roster moves from John Elway up top. So I'm not sure. I'm not going to say is he a good fit until I see what the rest of the roster looks like.
Fair enough. Let's get into our 4th bonus final question from Rodney Egwin. What's up, El Bizzo? He asked, finally, some Minnesota purple love here. Is Cordell Patterson, a bust for the Vikings?
I don't think he's a bust because this is only his 3rd year. I believe it's his 3rd year. So let's see after this year. New offense, new quarterback, new system coming in. Let's see if he's able to read defenses, and let's see if he's able to run the correct route tree. There was some reports when he's coming into the draft that he wasn't able to run route trees and wasn't able to run routes. So let's see after this year to see if he's a bust.
Again, they said one-trick pony, send him down the field. One thing's for sure, he's been one of the most disappointing this year. A lot of expectations, especially from everyone in Minnesota, but he's still young. Give him some time. It's not over yet.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. We'll definitely see. So
there you have it, folks. Another show, Phirst Contention in the books. But don't forget, please, like the video, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter while you're at it, subscribe to their YouTube channel. Send us your questions using hashtag wesports. We'll answer them right here on the show.
For Taiwo Sosina and his Skittles, I am Marvin Banks signing off.
Taste the rainbow. Trays up.
You're so rude. You're so disrespectful.
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, dog, you're so disrespectful.
With Phirst Contention, that's full throttle in. We sport on deals, on court.